is difficult because you are vulnerable in the person-centered approach. It's about being authentic with your feelings and knowing how to communicate them with other people. It's about understanding their feelings, and not everybody's okay with that, even when you're in the same group.
Some people were there because their parents made them go, so it was like then there were students like me that had found out about the school on their own and talked to their parents and then, getting them in there, pretty much.
It's cool.
So.
There's a huge discrepancy between a room full of adults that are not only willing to participate, but usually paying to participate, and bring a technique into a group full of
Like, I would never think of that. I would never react that way. I would never, and it's hard for me to connect with people because I'm like, that's not how I was taught.
to react.
Yeah.
You don't react.
Yeah, and then people also are just like, once again, you're really weird. Like, I don't really understand where you're coming from because, on a day-to-day basis, there's
I've done these things with her, and sometimes in the beginning it was hard because apparently normal people in society don't talk and they don't care about other people's feelings. So it was difficult for me to be like, well, how does this make you feel? Like, what are you feeling about this? And she would just be like, I don't know. And I would be like, in my head, well, what? How do you not know? Like, because I come from this.
Right.
And so it takes some time, but if you find someone who's willing to grow with you and actually talk about things, it's amazing. And it feels great, and it makes a relationship stronger. So I'm very thankful for this in my life, because without this, I don't know how I would even honestly have made it this far in life.
Well, if there's one thing we know how to do is talk about feelings and opinions.
regurgitating it becomes so practiced that they're agreed to absolutely just a reaction.
What I took out of that is I find that since I've left Windows or Cortez, I do a lot of self-evaluation of myself. Like, I'll take a frozen second at a time and be like, all right, this is what's going through my mind. This is the emotion that I'm feeling right now, and this is what I should do. This is how I should go forward. And that's been good, and it's been bad at the same time, because then you can over-evaluate yourself.
the critical, self-critical.
And that's when, that's when things get interesting.
Constantly asking myself about taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Especially if you have to interact with somebody else. You're like,
Where's my phone?
yeah.
We used to think that we're special.
Yeah,
You
we all
think
think
that
we're
we're
special.
special, but you are. And the thing is that I don't know if that actually creates you to be successful in life, but you have this dream inside of you.
Well, I was thinking about it a lot this morning, the days leading up to coming here. I wasn't really sure what I was going to say because I didn't really remember specific things, but I think that's sort of the point. And the more I started thinking about it, the more that we were talking to each other, we all brought up a lot of the same similar points, and it came so easily. And I think that's part of what the person-centered approach does. It changes your relationship with yourself and the way you communicate with other people. And any sort of situations that we have had, or I personally have had with other people in authority, other teachers as I went on to other schools, is totally different than what I had at Cortez Hill, because that kind of authenticity isn't really taught anywhere else. So it makes you more aware of who you are, and it makes you stronger and more authentic, but it also makes you aware that there aren't a lot of other spaces for that. And it was kind of nice to be able to come here and commiserate with everybody else who validated that. It wasn't just like, oh, this is just part of your personality. It's actually kind of more connected with the person-centered approach. Like the advantage that isn't always so advantageous when you're dealing with other people who don't understand themselves very deeply. They don't understand about empathetic communication. They don't understand about being able to be open or vulnerable with their feelings without thinking of it as a negative.
You were sharing that.
Being responsible for yourself
Yeah.
is what it is. It's being responsible for your actions, being responsible for your words, being responsible for who you are as a person, being responsible for what you're putting out into the world. It's like we were saying a little bit earlier, it's the fact that on a day-to-day basis, every interaction that you have, whether it's good or bad, if it's good, it's it's great, you feel like you're being productive, but say you have a conflict with somebody, it's almost like there's a lot of pressure on yourself as well to be like, what was my part in this? How did I react? Should I react different? Should I have reacted differently? Would there have been a different result? You know, like, where is my you put a lot of responsibility on your shoulders to make sure that everything that you're doing is a responsible, you're making sure that you're a responsible person in your day-to-day life.
You're not only learning academically, you're learning emotionally, and you're kind of in a way growing with each other and helping.
family.
Yeah, you're helping each other with the schoolwork, and yeah. And so when I left that school and I went to another environment, it was a big culture shock because, you know, in other schools, it's every man for himself. If you need the teacher's help, you gotta fight for it. And
Yeah.
I didn't feel that at Cortez at all.
It's so essential, it's so important to teach effective communication. And I feel like, because I've had the privilege to experience them in a working capacity, amongst my peers, amongst my teachers, taking them home to my family unit, I feel like it is a great advantage. But the more we talk about it being met with resistance, the more we talk about how we're, you know, freaks because of it. It's really coming up in me right now. Like, I'm really feeling like important. Like, it's extremely important that it should be taught in schools, in my opinion. It should be taught because right now I'm having a recall of how many conflicts were avoided. I mean, and for those of us that are still close, that we still, just how quickly we can have what would be a fight or a disagreement without ever having a fight or a disagreement at all. How those feelings are brought up, how easy it is for us to say to each other, like, hey, what you're doing right now is making me feel appreciated. What you're doing right now is hurting me because, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other person's saying, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was hurting like this.
Let's compromise.
Let's compromise. I'll do this, you do that, or I will not continue to perform that action because I had no idea or any concept that it was damaging you at all. Not only that, an apology, and bam, you're moving forward again. And that's not something that is experienced, I think. Conflict resolution is, like I said, it's nature to us.
Right.
And
it also teaches you how to communicate.
Mhm.
And a lot of
Easy.
problems are just lack of communication.
Completely.
Just not having the information of what the other person is
Yeah.
thinking. Like, I'm constantly, like, anytime I feel like a behavior of somebody else's has hurt me, and I'm always like, okay, so did they actually do something hurtful? Or am I sensitive to this because of something that's happened in my past, or because it's a behavior that I do that I don't like in myself? And so you can kind of solve a lot of the problems on your own. It's only when the stimuli is repeated that you can say, oh, hey, like, this makes me feel kind of bad because of all these other things. And like, it's not really your behavior so much as my reaction to it. You can just be a little mindful around me. If I start acting aggressive or despondent, it's just because of the reaction to the stimuli. It takes the responsibility away from the actual people and just places it on the behavior. And I think a lot of people, when you confront them with, oh, something you said hurt my feelings, they feel like they're being accused of something, that they're wrong,
Mhm.
that it's a challenge.
You're attacking me.
Yeah, that you're attacking them. It's like, I'm not attacking you as a person, it's just this behavior because of this, and they don't even want to hear after that. They're just like, nope.
Don't tell me what.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong. I don't have to apologize because that wasn't my intent. I'm like, well, I know it's not your intent. I'm talking about.
Nor am I looking for an apology.
Yeah, no,
I
I
just.
just-
Or do I think it identifies you as a person?
Right, I just say,
Where
please
am
be
I?
mindful because this affected me this
Telling you
way.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
Into action, you not only have to be honest with other people, but you have to be honest with yourself.
Can you have empathy
Mhm.
consistently and live in society? It's difficult.
It's difficult.
Especially when you're spending all your time being in everyone else's shoes. Like, well, I can imagine how you're feeling when you're being very mean to me.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand.
Don't judge them because you don't know what they've been through.
Did that girl just punch you? Like, yes, but she's having a rough day.
Society
Give
has
me
a-
that ice pack and I'll tell you why.
Yeah. You know, like it's not their fault that they don't know.
Yeah, we were given the tools
We were given
by
these
chance.
tools by chance, which are amazing tools and which are phenomenal. And I feel like every school at least in America, should be taught this at a very early age, because that's the only way you're going to fully grasp it. And it's the only way you're gonna fully get it.
Effective communication.
Exactly. It's effective, yeah. But it's difficult to be this way in society completely, like.
Well, teens, essentially in a normal setting, are very egocentric. Meaning everything is about them. Everything's about them, everything's about them, everything's about them. And then I also remember the pivotal moment when I realized that that was an advantage for me as far as empathizing, as far as understanding situations. And it was the actual key for me to realize not to take anything personally. And for me, that was a weight lifted off of my shoulders when I realized that for the most part, when I was being damaged by another human being or a situation, or I was part of something, it became for me, a key point was learning to having someone say, well, don't ever take anything personally.
What would it be like, for children to grow up and have that sense of community in their own families, as well as outside of their families?
Approach to the world saved my life, because if I didn't know that people were passionate and compassionate and loved each other properly, I would have disintegrated. I would have not survived to the age that I am today. So it is a very, I'm sorry, I'm emotionally overwhelmed right now, so I'm not sure if I'm properly getting it out
I get it.
right, but it's spread. And I hope that this approach to the world and communication is implemented into regular school systems, and because it might save someone's life, because it sure saved mine.
Necessary, and I kind of didn't really think of it that way until we were sitting here talking about it. There's no, but I can make friends with like anyone if I approach them with the kind of tools where I'm like, you can be whoever you are with me.
Yeah.
And people respond to that
That's
really,
okay.
really well.
I mean, I'm very moved by what I'm hearing with you guys. I want to say, Jackie, what'd you do to these people?
Work a lot.
It was like a lot of this, like we had our classes, it was just a lot of like, with what Ricky was saying before about the buses. I was in Green Bus with him, and when you spend all of your classes with the same group of people and your lunch breaks.
For
that was
years.
For years, and the only time all of us would, I mean, it was a small school, but we would interact mostly at lunch. All the buses would be in the same place, or two buses would go to a museum on certain days. And it was
a long lunch break.
yeah, it was like an hour, and we would do this. Like,
Yeah.
it was awkward, I think, at first, and maybe forever.
These guys, Colin and Ricky, also had me for their homeroom
Oh,
in
geez.
addition.
And we were both peer counselors.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple other quick things. Have you seen The Matrix, the movie?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like, you guys all took the blue pill.
That's what my mom says.
Yeah.
Hmm?
I'm sorry, I have to go. I think it's marvelous.
Thank you for
Thank you.
making
Thanks for sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, you can't untake it.
No.
Yeah, it helps. Yeah, when you come out of someone who's taken the blue pill, it always encourages that. But yeah, for a lot of people, school was the first place where the blue pill was offered.
But this
Yeah.
this atmosphere right here was our daily atmosphere, like literally chairs in a circle.
Yeah.
This is how we have a classroom.
When I walked in, I was like, oh, it's just like school.
Yeah.
Like the chairs in the circle.
Yeah,
I didn't
I'm like,
expect
oh, it's comfortable.
I was like, oh, it's a
Safety.
panel. There's gonna be
Safety,
people
exactly.
sitting up here, and then everyone's gonna be sitting out like in an audience, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was gonna be just like high school.
I didn't know
And
that.
emotion, and at school, emotion always took precedence over education. And I hate to
Exactly.
say that, but if somebody came in and they'd had something horrible happen the day before in a home life or in whatever.
The class is gonna
Math
shut
class
down.
stopped,
Yeah.
because it had to be dealt with before. You can't expect someone to learn if they're in an emotionally disturbed state.
And it also helped to build a sense of camaraderie because we were all aware, even those of us who didn't become particularly close friends, like there's just a certain taste, if you will, when you've been to that school. It was small, and it was small for such a long time, and there's just a certain frequency where like, that's a Cortez Hill student, that's a Cortez Hill thing to say. And like, I'm not close friends with Ricky. I have not been since high school. I was not very close to Dana, but I feel towards her ways that I sometimes don't even feel towards friends that I met outside of school.
Yeah.
Because there's just such a shared experience. Like I was surprised that she knew my name because so many people I meet can't pronounce it. So there wasn't that reintroduction, and I was like, I remembered her from school. So it's just because it was a very close-knit community. Like everybody knew each other's business.
Even if you didn't like each other, like if there was two classmates that were just like, I don't like you, well, I don't like you, you're gonna have to figure out how you can work together even if you don't like each other, and that's just the end result.
You're gonna be,
You know, and the second that it gets any way towards violence at all, like
remember there was
it's
always
not,
like,
you know, it has to be dealt with.
fight, like the whole school.
The whole school.
The whole school was just like,
3 days later, still discussing what the fight was actually about.
Yeah.
Until it stopped, until those two people had reconciled in a way that was actually workable, school stopped.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying before, that when they said, you know, that math class stopped, that was something that, like, I specifically remember that was valuable. You know, is the sense that there would be people that are having traumatic experiences in their life, and how are you supposed to function? You come to school and you're literally in tears already, you're just with your backpack, and you're like, I know, and then you're supposed to sit here and write your essay, you know? But it's just like, we have teachers that are literally like, okay, well, if you're open to sharing, then we'll do this instead, until everybody's okay, you know? And then it's usually a ripple effect, because usually it'll start with you, and then you have your friends and your classmates that are encouraging to your situation, and then it just goes around the room, you know?
So I really get that we have to move on.
Yeah.
And I want to say to be continued, because I don't want to lose what we've got. And I hear you say you want it to spread, and I think you're the spreaders, along with me and anybody else that wants to join us. So I intend to create other opportunities and invite you to be with people from CSP. And I want you to think about
as a group.
what?
Can we call ourselves that as a group?
Yes, we can.
The
You want to make a
spreaders.
Facebook page?
And we can call ourselves the spreaders.
Yeah. Butter knife mascot?
Yeah, and I want to say that you named some people that weren't here today that are.
We need to get Raven in here.
Yeah.
Raven's our missing piece.
And others, there were some others as well, that maybe we can extend our invitation as well. And I want to say, as far as I'm concerned, you guys are welcome to stay on for what's next that we're up to, because we're going to be pulling together some work groups that we've been in that are talking about the future of PCA and other kinds of things that might interest you. I know that you'd be welcome to stay on with us. And I know you guys also have some reunion connection ideas too. But I'm inviting you to stay if you'd like to.
I think I have some plans. Sure. But I would like to reconnect with the San Jose person, just generally, I would like to still be part of this. I would like to.
Yeah.
And I do think that my role as a spreader has become a lot more prevalent to me during this conversation, and I feel like I have not been accountable as far as that goes, and I wish to be. So
I do as well.
I really appreciate everyone being part of this. We are not typically people that are listened to, honestly.
Yeah.
Outside of our little
This
groups.
is like a healthy breakfast club. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm thinking about doing a play. And this is unfolding right before my eyes. I definitely want to talk to you.
You guys may already do this, but I'm going to toss it out there in case you don't. The thing that I've done in my past, when I've got, just in general for support, I'm talking about isolation, is sitting down with one other person who's training and stuff like all of you are, and saying, we're going to take 20 minutes, and I'm just going to talk, and you're just going to listen, and you're just going to talk, and I'm going to listen.
Well, we do that anyway.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah. And believe me, some of us wish sometimes it was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes
usually
it's
like
days.
I'm the talker.
7 days.
I'll talk for like
Or
3
come
hours.
over my house, oh no, it's
Try it.
4 a.m.
My
You might want to
other,
try doing it for 20 minutes and say that's all we've got, and then you might.
We could
do
get
what
one of
you gotta
those
do in those 20
like the
minutes.
chess timers.
Yes.
Check.
my other sister makes fun of me because she's just like, okay, well, Kendra can shut up anytime she wants because she's been talking for 4 hours. Nobody else has been talking, just her, just her
When we
talking.
were living together, we got like bunk beds, and it was so difficult at first for us to just not talk. Like, because we were in the same room, lights were out, and then all of a sudden, like, we can see the sun is coming up through the window. and we're like, we have to work tomorrow, what the hell?
It's 6 a.m. now.
And it's like, we lived together. We spent
Yeah.
all every day together. And
There
we
wasn't
still
enough
couldn't
time.
Stop talking.
I Skyped with her the other day until like 4 a.m. And I was like, I gotta do stuff
We
today.
gotta go.
I have to be awake 20 minutes ago.
I have to literally go to the restroom, so I'm gonna bow out.
Before you guys leave the Canton premises, I want to get better contact information than Facebook.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.